most of you are in Southern California, but when we think about winter, in Southern California, it looks a little bit different than it does in kind of some of these northern regions. So where we're talking about right now, this San Joaquin Marsh is here in Southern California. And if you're familiar with Orange County and you're familiar with Irvine, the Irvine area, there is the Irvine Water District. There's a reclamation plant, and then there's the marshes that were built here. So the University of California, Irvine's down in this lower right-hand corner. And one of the reasons we wanted to bring you a little bit of flavor of a sense of what's happening in nature in Southern California is because it's a little bit different. The season's a little bit different here because of our climate, and we're more of a desert-like climate, that actually in the wintertime, it's not so much a dormant season as it is in other parts where it gets cold and it snows. And so here there's actually there's more growth and there's activity. And in addition, the Pacific coast is one of the 4 main flyways for birds and for migration. So there's a lot of migratory birds and other animals that come up and down the coast at this time of year. What makes the San Joaquin Marsh special is that we have 2 types of wetlands, 2 primary types of wetlands in our region. One is the coastal wetlands, and then we have inland wetlands, or the riparian wetlands. And in particular, in the Irvine area, about 90% of our inland wetlands, our riparian wetlands, have been destroyed. And one of the things that Irvine did early on was they started to rebuild this marsh area as part of the water purification and to bring the natural wildlife back to the area, and they've been very successful. And in our group, in our Order of the Sacred Earth, we have a birder, which is Richard, and he's kind of like our I think of him as like Audubon. He's our own Audubon, and he's going to give us a tour of some of the birds that you might see and some of the wildlife you might be able to experience if you're able to go out in the next month or so and visit the wetlands or visit San Joaquin. Okay. You're on, Richard.
All right. Well, Jesse's going to show some pictures of some of the birds that we've seen. Sue and I have been birding. Sue, she's a birder too. She looks at it with binoculars better than I do. But we spent time at the San Joaquin Marsh. I wonder how many people grew up with the birds fly south for the winter, Maxim. How many people remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
How many people have ever seen a seagull? Yeah, I bet everybody has, right? No, none of you have, really. How many kinds of birds are there? Well, we've learned a lot about birding in the last year. We've Zoomed birding class lessons. We've done a lot of walk and rolling for birding. And one of the best places we've been to is the San Joaquin Marsh. Anybody who wants to go there, whether you know anything about birds or not, it's not crowded. You don't have to wear a mask, but I'm sure you'd feel more comfortable. And you can just walk for hours and hours. Some of the birds that we've seen that are there now, because they do winter there. First one up on the screen that Jesse is showing is called the bufflehead duck. Now, most of the pictures you'll see here are males, and males are typically bigger than the females and more colorful. And again, most of the pictures here are pictures of males during their breeding season. Now, they often change colors, but when they're breeding, they get really pretty and they do weird things. We just saw some ducks today out in our little pond getting ready to mate, and the mallards dip their noses like this, dip their bills into the water, and they're just swimming around, dipping their bills in the water. And pretty soon, one jumps on the other one. Well, that wasn't what I was going to say. Okay, the bufflehead, strikingly white, dark head, with that nice white patch on the back. It is one of the smallest ducks that we have around. It's sometimes it's like under a half a pound. It breeds in October through May. So right now, the males are in this breeding colorization. There are populations of all these birds that are resident populations, but there are also populations that migrate. The buffleheads winters all over the US except in the central states and migrates into Canada in the summer. They're not around here in the summer. Next one, Jess. One of the favorite birds is the American white pelican. Okay, this is a photo of a non-breeding pelican, a non-breeding male pelican. If he were to be a breeding pelican, you might see a little knob on his bill up on top and a little bit of yellow coloring. They breed from February to June. They can be seen at the marshlands right now. They winter in the Southern California coastal areas and head up into the Northwest states for summering. They have wingspans of up to 9 feet and may weigh 16 to 17 pounds. Flocks of these birds have been seen, not around here, not that I've ever seen, of 30,000 or more pair of breeding birds. Or you may be lucky to see. We've seen them up in Idaho. Okay, next bird, Jess. This is the breeding male of a species called the eared grebe, eared, E-A-R. They breed April through September, so that you would not see this particular bird. They lose their coloring. They get more white. They become more drab like the females. They breed April through September. You can find them along the southwest US coast. They have a dark red eye, whether they're breeding or not, and that those bright orange yellow feathers that are radiating from the eye, that's their breeding. And notice the little head bumps. Okay, the eared grebe. Okay, our next one is a bird called the American Wigeon. Okay, you'll notice it's kind of a gray beak with a little black tip on it, a white forehead, and the same kind of green that you would see on a male mallard. This is a picture of one that is a breeding male. From October through June, you can find these birds. We've seen them all over the parks. We went to Miles Square Park. We went to Tewinkle Park and could see these American widgeons. They fly up to Canada and they will go up as far as Alaska during the summer. Okay, and the last one that we were going to show is, this is the belted kingfisher. This is a picture of a female belted kingfisher. Now, really the only difference between the male and the females have this brown breast coloring. They're very small, like under 6 ounces. We have them flying around here. They have a real odd flying pattern where they're really intermittent, irregular wing beats. They short flutter wings, and then they have several slower flaps. And breeding habits are sort of catch as catch can. There's a big population of resident kingfishers, but they also can be found all over the whole US. Their breeding is wherever they can find correct foraging, and it said little riverside, muddy riverside where they can build their nests. So we don't know much about their breeding other than that. They winter in Mexico and summer in Canada, except for the resident population that we have. Do we have any other pictures, Jess? Okay,
Gulls.
birds that can be found. If you've ever seen a seagull, you haven't really, because there's no bird that's a species called the seagull. These are some common gull species that you can see at the marsh. There's some other passerines, some songbirds that you may have pictures of.
So how many species of gulls are there, Richard?
Oh, good question. I don't know, but probably over a dozen,
Oh, there's more than 100.
more than 100 species.
Yeah.
See, our local books don't show us because they're not big enough to show us all the different species. But yeah, and they look a lot alike. Gulls take like 3 years to mature, and they molt. Some of them molt twice a year, so you can't really tell what kind of gull you're looking at unless you know all the different stages of their juvenile, their fledgling, and what they look like the first year when they molt, and the second year when they molt, and the third year when they molt. Okay, the last creature I wanted to mention was our Pacific gray whale. The gray whale migration is going on right now. In October, they sort of leave their feeding grounds in Alaska and start heading toward warmer water in Mexico. I know in Scammons Lagoon, there are whale calving. In December and January, they're passing by the California coast, and they tend to hug the coast on the way down. They'll be here February or December and January. They will be swimming south. And when they get down to the lagoon, either they will give birth or mate and then turn around and head back up. All this time, they won't be eating. They're filter feeders, and they've got to get back up to Alaska to get some of their krill feeding. So on their return trip, they typically get a little bit further offshore. A lot of times their young are with them, and maybe that's the reason why, or maybe they drive like they're in England. They stay on the wrong side of the road. But anyway, you can go see it's the Pacific gray whale anytime from now through January. And I think that's about all I have to say about migratory birds. They migrate or they stay, one of those two things. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.